Hi everybody, this is an absolute beginner intro to Illustrator selection tools. I'm going to go over the basics of a vector program versus a raster, which you may be familiar with or more familiar with. Here's an example. We'll just start by drawing a line, and unlike Photoshop or a bitmap program where you would get a kind of a pixely line, here you get an open line with these vector or anchor points in them. Now this is considered an open path or an open shape, and I can draw that and manipulate it and make it any shape, and that's fine. But what vector programs are really good at is creating closed paths like a circle, a square, a star, whatever it is, as long as it's not an open path, but all the little points kind of come together and go round and round like this. Then I'm going to go down here and just give it some colorization so that I can see it when it's not selected. If I double click on that and give it my strange but a little bit bright greenish color, and if I want, I can also give it a stroke or a colored outline, black, and if I zoom in on it, I can see that the black is there, but I think I will actually leave it blank and just put this red stroke going through it, which means there's no outline path at all because I don't really need it. And but I can select it, and you can see this box appears around it, and it acts like a box in any other program. I can scale it. I can scale it disproportionately or hold down Shift and scale it. I can, if I have a bunch of them, I can select them and group them, and then they're an object, and I can ungroup them, select them, delete them. And then I can also, if I move my cursor, I can spin them. And I can also do something called scale. So if I double click on something called scale, I can make it 50% or half the size exactly, precisely, if I don't want to use my eye, or double, or whatever the scale is I might want to do. And then I'm going to look at this tool right here. So it's called Direct Selection Tool. So it's just a little bit deeper into the shape. And if I use the Direct Selection Tool, when I click on it, you see that box disappears. It's no longer working for me as a single object in the same way, but it's really looking at the drawing of the shape. So if I click and drag around one of these anchor points, then they become activated. And you can see that's a little bit white, and I highlight it and it becomes white. And therefore I can click and drag and really manipulate the shape of that circle and make it into something very, very different. You also see that there are these handles, and if I move my cursor over the points of one of these handles, I can click and drag, and then the real power of the vector starts to emerge. When I first draw this shape, the handles are pretty much even, especially if it's a perfect circle. They're even in length. But then I start to manipulate them, and they get to be different lengths. So the beauty of these handles are when I create a dip in one side, it creates a bulge in the other. So it always wants to have this 180-degree axis here, which creates these smooth, kind of graceful curves all the time. And that's sort of the beauty of the vector and the algorithm. And the other kind of beauty is how mathematically efficient they are. This is the reason why EPS, Illustrator files, SVG files are so efficient and tiny and compressed compared to bitmap or JPEGs or Photoshop images, because all the math is in this simple little line here. And then the fill is just tell it to fill. Something flat and easy. So manipulating this is really kind of where the action is in drawing in Illustrator. Something else I can do is I don't always have to have graceful curves. If I hold down the Option key, you can see that my handle actually becomes on two angles here. And I can manipulate those handles separately by holding down Option and then clicking and dragging. And then I get these kind of funky cloud-like shapes. Okay, so that's one way to manipulate images in Illustrator. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to use the pen tool to actually trace a photo.